Welcome back to the baseball podcast. It's been a hot minute. Many say. I
Couple
don't talk
minutes.
about I don't talk about minutes like that. I like to talk about them in strictly objective terms. But you know, no matter whether or not you're willing to talk about minutes that way, one thing we can all agree on is that we have not podcasted in some time. I believe was the most recent podcast.
It was
It was
Pepe.
Donovan, right? Oh, it's Pepe. You're
It
right.
was
You're right. Yeah.
Pepe. And I will say really fast. I want to give two shout outs really quick. One to
Okay.
Pepe because he came on the show. He was really nice, super accommodating, and he gave us a lot of cool stuff to talk about. And I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
Also, I at the time when I got a hold of Pepe a few months back, I emailed I don't know, maybe like four or five of the baseball federation. I just went on like the WBSC website and clicked on like some federations I was interested in, and then sent like their federation emails. And I think
So you went with
Pepe,
the real shotgun approach, huh?
yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
think Pepe was the only one that got back to me. I think Pakistan maybe got back to me, and then it just kind of fizzled out and they stopped answering. I think, but like I
AKA
emailed
you
like
like forgot about it.
no, I remember. I think one other. I could be slandering Pakistan. It might not have been them, but there was one other team that
Pakistan slander here on the baseball podcast.
I think there was one other. I think there was one other nation that I emailed like a few times with, and then they like it just never went anywhere. But yeah,
Dog.
I remember Brazil in particular. I emailed and they never got back to me. Like they never answered. So, thank you, Pepe, for taking the time,
Is
and thank you for spending your time. And I always try to like tweet out the shows and be like thanks to whoever it was for coming on the show. It was like a lot of fun, and I just completely forgot to do that with Pepe. Not that anybody cares, but I switched my phone plan and now my notifications are all messed up and my apps are weird, so it's a whole thing.
no, you know
So
what? I
that
care.
yeah, hey,
I
thanks, man.
care.
So that's why I didn't do that with Pepe. But so anyway, so like 2 weeks after we put out the episode, I was like, oh, I forgot. So I emailed Pepe and was like, hey man, thanks again for coming on. Here's the episode if you want to listen to it. And he was like, oh, well, actually, I'll read you his response because he was super
Oh,
nice as he
oh,
as he
okay.
had been.
We're going
Yeah,
right to the receipts. We're going to the
yeah,
tapes.
yeah. We're going to the tapes. Yeah. So he said, let's see. I just gave him like a hey, thanks for coming on, whatever. And he said, thanks for the opportunity you gave us to talk about baseball in the Philippines. We currently have our U15 team in China playing in the BFA, so I'm assuming Baseball Federation of Asia, under 15 Asian Baseball Championship. Scores thus far: Korea 9, Philippines 1. That's a shame. Chinese
Uh,
Taipei 9, Philippines 1. That's a shame. Philippines 13, Sri Lanka 1. Or
Sri
is
Lanka, get wrecked.
Is it Sri Lanka or did they make them Ceylon again? Um,
No,
Phil,
that's if the British team beats them.
yeah, Team Great Britain pounds them, and then Philippines 15, Hong Kong 2, and this was
Damn.
yesterday or this was this morning. He said we play Pakistan tomorrow. The latest
Oh,
men's baseball world rankings were issued last week. Philippines moved up from number 42
yeah,
to 36. So
yeah. They moved up
congratulations,
big.
Pepe. Congratulations, Pepe. Congratulations, Baseball Philippines. And thank you again, once again, for coming on and for being so prompt. And I want to have Pepe on again, like later on.
Yeah,
Maybe the next World Baseball Classic qualifiers are like in 2025. We should probably do it before then. But I like
yeah,
the idea of having him on again just to track the growth of the
yeah.
game, you know?
Hey, you know what I
Um,
don't have to say about Pepe?
I despise him.
yeah, you would never.
That's what something I would never say.
I've got
One
another
question I do
thanks.
have though, I have to ask when you emailed the Brazil Baseball Federation, was it just Jan Gomes' personal email address?
No, it's Dante Bichette. No, no.
Dante Bichette
Um,
Sr. I didn't just call him
yeah.
John Tay.
Yo, you want to hear something hilarious? I don't know why I know this. His name is Alphonse Dante Bichette. I
Oh,
like
I
it
think I've
so
seen
much.
that, yeah.
I like it so much better when he's Alphonse Bichette. I love those on like when you find out about it, like you know the guy on the Nationals, Stone Garrett.
Yeah.
Stone Garrett is a good name, man. Like Stone
Is that
Garrett
his
is a
legal
baseball
name or
player. I was looking at him today because he just broke his leg. Gregory Stone Garrett. Dude, Greg Garrett is a nerd. Greg Garrett
I
works
know.
in an office. Like Greg,
No, no, no,
yeah. He
dude,
I'm
Greg
you
Garrett's like a public defender.
I'm usually not one I'm like weird about names. I'm usually not in on the middle name thing. Like I usually think it's dumb. Like it's like, oh yeah, my name's Thomas, but I go by John. It's my middle name. Like it's like, come on, man. Like nothing's wrong with
Dude,
Thomas.
who would
Who in
ever
their
name their
right
kid
mind would go by
Thomas?
Thomas? But like,
Unbelievable.
but in this case, like I remember I grew up with a kid named Spencer, and one day like I was over his house and we were hanging out, and he told me that his and this was like a secret. Like he's like, don't tell anybody. He was like, my first name's George, and I was like, so.
Nice.
And he was like, I don't like
Nice.
George. I want to be Spencer. And I was like, who cares? Like, what are you talking about? In
Well,
this
dude,
case,
he's, you know what it is? George is his equivalent of Cosmo. He doesn't
yeah,
want anybody to know.
Cosmo, and of course Babs. But
Yeah.
I in this case, I think Stone Garrett has the right idea. And the other thing, I will never be on board with initials as names. Your name can't
Wait a
be
minute,
initials.
wait. So you, Civil War buff, are not on board with initials as names. So PGT Beauregard, no, you're out on that.
No, I'm not. And ready? Because his name is Pierre Gustave Dutton Beauregard. Why would you want to be PGT? I will say, speaking about the Civil War, we're way off baseball here.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Civil War,
to the Civil War podcast.
I'm big on the middle initial and rank. Like think about it. Like when you think about like World War II, Dwight Eisenhower, Omar Bradley, George Patton. I guess people say like George S. Patton sometimes, but like, for the most part, like you just know the guy by their name. I like that in the Civil War, it's like, you know, Major General John B. Magruder. If he's just John Magruder, that's not that cool. John Magruder sounds a lot better.
John Magruder is such a sitcom.
Yeah, John Magruder's like a high school football coach. John B. Magruder, and his middle name is Bankhead, which is also cool. John B. Magruder. Yeah. Listen, man, that's the way it goes.
Dude, what was with people and names in the 1800s?
I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming it's like a Southern thing. Like, you know how a lot of times they do like the mother's maiden name as the middle name. I'm assuming. I don't know that. But like the Civil War is huge. Like it's George Gordon Meade, Winfield Scott Hancock. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a lot of like, you know.
I mean, there's William T. Sherman.
Yeah, Robert E. Lee. Everybody's got the middle name involved. I don't know why. But they do.
Dude.
Or even like the hero of Little Round Top, you know, like Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain. People call him both. Strange.
Call him JL.
Yeah. But like I will never be on board like AJ Burnett. No, like your name's like, I don't know what his name is, but like Andrew, like you're just calling yourself that. Like your initials aren't names. It bothers me. And the other,
what if he has a stupid name though? What if his name's like Auburn?
All right, so here's the way I look at it.
No, you can't do that because of Auburn Burnett. It's like, dude, one burn per name, please.
All right, so here's the thing. Here's the way I view it. I think there's like a hierarchy. I say just go by your first name. I mean, okay. I'm not, and look, I'm being facetious. I don't actually care what people do. I don't want this to come across like I'm actually mad. But like, my name's,
you live your truth. Yeah, okay.
Like my name's Ethan Zachariah Williams. I've never even once considered going by Zachariah or Easy or something. Like I've just like,
wait. This is fake news. Okay, you never call yourself Easy.
Yeah, my mom calls me Easy. Yeah.
His mom has been calling him Easy Rider, various incarnations of Easy for his whole life. So I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Dude,
but like
I'm
I would never
that, you know.
I would never also I was talking about this at work the other day. I had in high school I had two Spanish teachers that were both like, I don't know, 25 at the time, and they were gorgeous, and I was like super in love with them. And everybody who knows me knows about this, is, you know, whatever. But anyway, yeah, these two Spanish teachers, Miss Sandwich and Miss Warren, I was like super in love. I hope they hear this. I was like super in love with them, and they would call me.
There's anything wrong with that?
Yeah, because my name doesn't translate. Like, you know, if your name's John, they call you Juan in Spanish, or you would be Tomas.
Oh, did you have to pick one? Were you like,
no, I didn't pick one. I just was Ethan, and so they just started calling me E.
Oh, what the hell?
Yeah, they just started calling me E,
really,
which was fine. Yeah, and so hola E, cómo estás? And so that was that. Whatever. My boss at work now, Anthony, who's he's a guy. He's about 10 years older than me. He's great. He's a lot of fun. He calls me E, and I have mixed feelings about this because. That's not what I. Yeah. It's he's not like a gorgeous woman in a position of authority over me, which is what does it for me.
I feel like we're starting to dance very close to the fetish podcast here.
Yeah, we're getting very psychological here. It's well, anybody who knows me knows I'm into older women. It's fine.
Yeah, and you
We're
know
way
what?
far
Here at the
afield.
baseball podcast, I just turned into my webcam will just randomly just blur out, and all of a sudden it's like I'm smeared with Vaseline.
No,
But
I like how you know how if you watch a show they bleep curse words. I like that they're blurring you. Like they're
yeah,
like
I'm
that's
being
enough.
censored.
Yeah, they're censoring
But
your
what I
visuals.
was going to say was, here at the baseball podcast, we like our fans to feel like they know us personally. So if you have any questions, if you want to know our social security number,
Yeah, or if you
anything
just want
like
to know
that,
our
yeah.
preferences in dating, that's fine too.
True,
Where
yeah.
was I going with this?
And
Oh,
you know
but so
what?
here's my thing.
You know what
Wait,
we'll
wait.
say? No, hold on. You know what we'll say when you send those in? We'll say,
Just question, my liege.
Brad Dourif. So,
dude.
so here's like my hierarchy. I think everybody does this, where you come up with like systems in your brain of how you rank things, like mundane things.
Okay.
I
I'm not
say
sure
go-
everybody does this, but
Yeah, that's true.
continue.
Idiots
I
like
do
us.
this, but
I say just go by your first name. It's fine. It doesn't matter. But if you're not going to do that, then I guess go by your middle name. And by first name, like Jonathan, you can go by John, whatever. Like I'm not saying it's got to be exactly that, but like go by your first name. If you're not going to do the first name, go by your initials. Like I think, or go by your middle name. I think initials are like at the bottom of the rankings. But I'll say this for initials: if your name were like Andrew John Smith and you go by AJ Smith, I think that's dumb. But whatever, fine. Your initials are AJ. Go for it. I have an issue here, Tom. My sister-in-law, Lisa, wonderful person, had a
okay.
friend, I think has a friend named TJ. And so I'm kind of talking to him, and he's a nice enough guy. And so I was like,
Okay.
"Oh, what does that stand for?" I was like, "What's your full name?" And he goes, "It's Anthony, whatever, whatever, whatever." And I was like, "Wait, where's T come from?" And he goes, "Oh, well, my dad was Anthony Senior." And I was like, I'm not understanding.
Yeah, how
And
does that clear that up at all?
he goes, "Oh, well, I'm Tony Junior. I'm TJ." Like, what are you talking about? None of your initials are T or J. You can't just start making stuff up.
It's a little strained, but I'm not sure why this bothers you so much. Let's put it that way.
It's just, and I want to make clear, I'm not telling other people how to live their life. You can go by anything you want. I'll call you whatever you. Yeah, I am. I'm allowed to think this is silly. Like what was wrong with the name Anthony or Tony? You got to go by TJ. Like, what is this?
I don't know. Yeah, I think I don't know.
I mean, hey, I got
skeletons.
I've got skeletons in my closet, Tom. I tried to make up nicknames for myself for a long time.
Oh,
and it didn't
did
work.
you ever? Dude.
You go ahead if you want.
I think we'll just stick to the greatest of these stories about when Ethan was like 12. He went through a series of nicknames for himself, which really isn't how it works.
No,
you can't just proclaim yourself an awesome nickname. You can't be like, yeah, some people call me,
they call
Venom
me
Blade.
the Destroyer.
Yeah, they call me Muscles.
They call me Killmonger.
Yeah, you can't name yourself anything cool. Like, and really, nobody's gonna give you a badass nickname anyway. Like, even like in the Air Force, like when people have call signs, like they're always ironic. It's always like, oh yeah, we call him Iceman because one time he accidentally, he left the freezer open, all the ice.
Yeah, because he always got brain freeze when we were hanging out.
Yeah, he slipped on the ice during a winter run and he broke his tailbone.
It's never like because he murdered a man and put his body in the freezer.
He's got ice water running through his face. So Ethan decided when he was like 12, after a series of failed attempts, he came up with the worst possible one where he dubbed himself Captain Charisma.
Oh,
and
yeah. Any wrestling fans out there will appreciate that.
And it was an instant hit for all the wrong reasons.
No. Not only did I dub myself that, I made that my name on Facebook. Do you remember? And this was
Captain Charisma Williams.
This was like the peak of Facebook, like 2011, 2010, something like that.
Yeah, this was when
everybody was on Facebook. Twitter wasn't that big. Like Facebook was where things were at.
Yeah, this was your Facebook account was your street cred.
From the mountaintop, I was shouting to the world that I was Ethan Captain Charisma, dude. Go ahead.
Dude, I mean, listen, and you know what? Many a laugh was had at it.
Yeah.
It endured. Actually, at one point, I made a bunch of trading cards where I basically just mocked all of our friends. And
these were great.
And Ethan's was Captain Charisma, and it was like the rarest card.
I remember you saying You said it was something. I'll have to find the picture of it and put it up for people who are
It
watching.
was no, we already put it up. It was the picture of thin
Oh,
Ethan
that's
with
right,
the
with the blue moon. Yeah, but it was something to the
in the
effect of
Jay
like,
Bruce shirt.
wasn't it something to the effect of like when Charisma itself called out for an avatar, he answered the call or something.
I don't
It
remember.
was hilarious. It was hilarious. All right, all right.
I was a lot edgier at the time. I will say that.
No, those were incredible. All right, going
Hey,
all the
whoa!
way back.
Things can be edgy and also incredible, but yes, yeah.
I would say it's a rare
You know,
thing.
run it back.
Going all the way back. I want to say
Right.
thank you. I don't know if you're going to be familiar with this guy, Tom. I
I'm
don't
not
think most.
familiar with this guy.
Yeah, yeah. So there was a catcher on the Mariners, I think like 2017, 2018, somewhere around there, who got like a cup of coffee, a drink. I think he played
Oh.
like 10, maybe 20 big league games, and that was it. Name was Mike Margema. Do you remember this guy?
Mike Margarine? No.
It's
I
okay if you
know.
don't. So
No.
I didn't really know anything about him. I just knew he was
Great immaculate grid name. If he ever shows up on another team, though, I'll tell you that much.
No, he was only a Mariner.
Yeah, but I'm saying if he ever gets a drink for like the
if he
Royals,
surfaces, yeah.
yeah, he
If he
shows
gets
up
one at
on the
bat,
Guardians.
Yeah, gets one at bat for the Marlins. So this guy Mike Margema. So anyway, I kind of like was like a little bit familiar. Like I knew his name. He was a baseball player, and that was that. And then I saw this thing on YouTube, and it was, I don't remember what it's called. I can put a link if I really want to. And it was something like, Mike Margema's like journey overcoming whatever to get to the big leagues. And I was like, what's all this about? So I click on it. And I don't, it's been a little while since I watched it, so I won't remember. But basically the gist of it was Mike Margema was this, like handsome, successful, athletic guy, like growing up, and he had an eating disorder. And I don't think he got into what it was exactly, like what the issue was in particular, but he basically got into like, I went to rehab. It was like really, really bad. Like I like ruined my body for a little while. And I think this is probably like his late teens, something like that. And he overcame this, got drafted, I guess, and then went through the minor leagues and ended up making it to the major leagues. So it's like a super inspirational story of, like he overcame this. Awesome. Great. I don't want to out this guy because I didn't talk to him about it, but somebody close to us has struggled with an eating disorder. And so I ended up sharing it with him, and he seems to have taken it to heart. So it kind of meant something to me. And I thought it was really cool that Mike Margema was like being open about this. But I also thought the interesting thing was that Mike Margema was bringing attention to the fact that like plenty of men have eating disorders. And you think of it as, I think society thinks of it as sort of like a middle school girl problem of like, oh no, all the other girls think I'm fat. And in reality, like it's like anything else. Like anybody can have an eating disorder. Anybody can have this issue. It's just a body image issue like we all have.
Yeah, it's not like women get issued a different brain. You know?
Exactly. And again, I don't want to out this guy, but the person that we know that has struggled with
You've
this,
already cut the probability in half. You've already partially doxed.
I mean, it's not
them,
anybody that our audience is going to know, but I just didn't think to ask. But so anyway, so this person was telling me that they went away to this sort of inpatient rehab thing, and it was very helpful for them, and I'm really glad. But what he was telling me was he was like, I was the only guy there. It was all like high school, college age girls who like had an eating disorder because like, like that's how it is in America. I guess a lot of people struggle with this.
Is this Mike Margarine or is this
no,
the
this
other
is
guy?
Yeah, this is somebody close to me. I'm sort of talking in weird because I'm dancing around it, but this is
like how we have to speak in riddles.
Yeah, I should have talked to this guy before.
Let's call him Alfred.
Let's call him Alphonse. So anyway, so this guy told me that he was like, and he was like, even the people in like the rehab were like, and this is anecdotal, but he's like, even the people there were like kind of like shocked that I was like open and honest about this, but also like trying to get help. Like it's sort of, he was like, men sort of have this like, suck it up attitude about things, and that can make it even more difficult. That's true. So I think that's like the thing that like Mike Margema is like sort of crusading against, and trying to like actually bring to light that a lot of guys have this issue. So anyway, I think that's really cool. Good on Mike Margema, and thank you for the great work you're doing. But anyway, I that popped into my head the other day, and I was like, that's really cool. So I look up Mike Margema, and I think he's like a successful real estate agent now, and that's cool. And so I just fired off an email and was like, hey Mike, I just want to say thanks for everything you're doing. I know it positively impacted this guy that I know, and so I appreciate that. And I really wasn't trying to like lead in with that, just like soften him up. I was being honest. And then I was like, hey, I have this baseball podcast. If you want, like that's a platform if you want. And if you want to come on and like give encouragement, that'd be great. And if not, I just want to say thank you. And he emailed me back, and he basically was like, I'm taking some time to myself. I'm not doing any interviews or anything. but I appreciate the kind words. And I was like, no sweat. I totally get that. Don't worry about it. So Mike Marge was not coming on the show, but he answered me. I thought that was really cool.
Wait,
What?
I can't get over the point of that story, all of that. And at the end, you're like, and you know what? He's not coming on the
Should I edit all this out?
No. That was like the highlight of the podcast. Dude, that was one of the greatest rug pulls ever.
No, I wasn't trying.
Dude, I was sitting there. I'm like, what am I going to ask this guy? Because it sounds like he's coming on the podcast.
No, you're totally right.
And you know what? He got back to me, and he said he's not coming on.
No, you're totally right. I didn't mean for I didn't mean for that to happen that way.
Damn it.
I didn't mean for that to unfold that way.
Dude,
I
tried to click on the mute button and I missed it, and I opened a different menu. And I'm sitting there, I'm trying to click on it again, but I started coughing, and I'm like, no.
No, I didn't mean to like bury the lead like that. I was just trying to.
No, you didn't bury the lead. That was a misdirect. I'm sending that to. I'm getting you a tour after that.
I was just trying to point out that this guy doesn't know me at all, and he's this successful.
Nor will he.
Yeah, nor will he's a Major League Baseball player. He's a successful real estate agent now. He's got a lot on his plate, and he actually took the time to answer my email and explain himself. And I thought that was really nice of him.
I'm sorry, I can't.
I was trying to give him like a shout out and say thank you. Just for taking the time to even answer, because you know what it is. I feel like this day and age, people with any sort of profile get like inundated with requests. You just don't answer. I've gotten so many non-answers from people who don't want to come on. He took the time to be like, "Hey, I'm not really doing that right now, but thanks for thinking of me and thanks for saying nice things." That was nice of him. He didn't have to do that. So yeah, he's not coming on the show.
Dude, it's like I've never seen a better misdirect in my life. And like that, yeah, I get the point of the story, and you're right. Like it is like wow, that it really, that's cool that he took the time to reach out. But it was like the greater story. You're like, dude, listen, I messaged this guy, he has a story that really hits home for somebody close to us, and he took the time to reach out just to let me know that he's not coming on the podcast. I'm impressed. That was really good. That was one of the...
Is this just the podcast now? Should we even bother getting into another topic?
Yeah, is this just the mockery podcast? It's just us getting back into the swing of things. How are we gonna make this like baseball related though? We're gonna be like Shohei Ohtani's UCL tear. How does this affect the Angels already completely running away from the playoffs at full speed?
Yeah, the poor Angels.
No, not the poor Angels. The poor Angels fans.
No, even the poor. Because okay, and I will say, I think most of the Angels' problems are like self-inflicted, like the Anthony Rendon contract, and not like I don't want to say not going for it because they sort of did, but like Josh Hamilton contract, like that kind of stuff.
C.J. Wilson,
the Pujols contract, but and also like not making the push with Ohtani before this season, but also. Like, man, I would have sold Ohtani, and they pushed all their chips in, and it's just not.
Yeah,
working.
And then they came out of the All-Star break and they absolutely face planted.
Yeah, like they made some.
And then Ohtani got hurt.
Like they got probably the best corner outfielder on the market, a rock solid first baseman, hands down the best starting pitcher on the market, and an excellent relief pitcher, and they got significantly worse somehow. Like I don't know how that happened.
It's so bad.
It's pathetic. It's pathetic. And then like Mike Trout's been on the shelf since like early July, comes back, plays one game, and then goes back on the shelf again. And now it's like, dude, the Angels have been a life sport for like a week now, but I keep being like, no, I want to see him win. I want to see him go to the playoffs. I want to see Trout and Ohtani go to the playoffs. They're cooked, man.
They're not going to do it.
It's a shame. It's and I think as a Phillies fan, I really empathize because for a long time the Angels and the Phillies were just the same thing. Like they hadn't made the playoffs since like what 2014 or 2013 and the Phillies were 2011, I guess.
Yeah.
2012, something like that. And then like the Angels had made it since like 2014. The Phillies had a star in Bryce Harper who was just languishing for a few years. Obviously the Angels had like a stars that were just languishing. And I sort of watched it and I was like, man, like these are the guys of the Phillies. And the Phillies like came out of it and they're in good shape over the past 2 years. And the Angels just are not coming out. And I'm just like, the Phillies took some risks. They signed huge free agents and it's pretty much all worked out. Not 100%. It's
Trey
pretty much all worked out
so far. Not really, but No,
and I mean like Castellanos had a bad year, but like for the most part, everything's been going well. And like they traded away some prospects, some guys. Their prospects haven't turned into that much yet, and the guys they got have been pretty good for the most part. Man, the Angels just everything has gone wrong.
Yeah, the Angels are like they're in a zag contest and they're only capable of zigging.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
It's not good. It's really bad. I don't feel for Arte Moreno because it sounds like he's a little bit of a scumbag who's just not helping things. It sounds like I don't know that for sure,
right?
But and I don't even really feel for Trout because he signed the first extension and then I think he was set to hit free agency in like 2020 or 2021. And it was like he's already made $100 million. The Angels have already proven they're not going to do anything with him. He can come to Philadelphia. He can go to a bunch of Eagles games. He can play with Bryce Harper. It'll be awesome. And then he re-upped for the Angels for the rest of his career. And it was like, well, you did that to yourself, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Ohtani, I think, got bamboozled by the idea of playing with Trout, playing on the West Coast. It's only for 6 years, and it just has not come together.
It's bad for the sport for Trout and Ohtani to just never make the playoffs.
No, it's a shame, and I don't think by any means that Mike Trout is done. I think he's still got some productive years left in him, and I definitely hope he's got a lot more productive years left in him. But like the injuries are starting to come. You know what I mean? Like,
one thing I will say is he gets a lot of hand injuries, and I have heard tell, and I may or may not have seen direct evidence that he is switching to axe bats, which are supposed to be better.
Yeah, they take some of the pressure
who have hand injuries. Right? Yeah, so that might help with that. We'll see. I don't know if he's going to stick with the axe bat even because people either love him or they don't. Right. Axe bats are very controversial.
Is that it? Did you just break news?
I don't think I broke that, but in terms of this podcast, I mean, I know that we made a couple to send him at Victus, but I don't know if he's going to use them because he's pretty loyal to Old Hickory. But listen, this is the business.
He's loyal to the Angels too. What do they do for him?
Give him $400-something million. I don't know.
I guess that's true.
But yeah, and also you go on Twitter and you'll see people they're like, I'm thinking of some good comps for Mike Trout. You got to dock him a little bit because he never won a World Series. So I'm thinking Jeff Conine. It's like Jeff Conine.
I haven't seen this stuff yet.
I read stuff like that. Dude, I think Mike Trout in one season is better than Jeff Conine in 8.
Mike Trout, this is good. This is going to be controversial. Mike Trout, if he stays healthy and productive into his late 30s, might be the greatest player of all time.
That was the audience absolutely losing their minds. It's such a controversial statement.
Is that Mike a scorcher?
Mike Trout, good at baseball. You be the judge.
But think about it. If Mike Trout, I mean, he'll get nicked up along the way. But let's say he plays full seasons for another 7-8 years.
Right, which at the moment, that's a little bit of an ask.
Yeah, but, but he's still only 30, right? Is he the greatest player of all time?
He just turned 31, right?
He would probably have 600 home runs, right?
Yeah, and also I have a feeling that the path forward for Trout is to DH him a little bit.
Probably.
Maybe make him a left fielder because he still plays center, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, maybe make him a left fielder. I don't know. I mean, I like he doesn't seem like he gets hurt in the field, so maybe that's not the problem. It seems like he gets hurt like swinging or like stealing bases.
Well, it also might just be like the Angels are going to be terrible. And they got nothing, like it's not like they gotta, mess around with their positioning to win games. Like they might just put him in DH to just preserve him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, although if he DHs for the second half of his career, probably not the greatest player of all time. Although he would definitely get 600 homers, I think.
I was going to say if he DHs for the rest of his career and was an excellent fielder for the first half of his career, is that not still cumulatively better than being Babe Ruth in the field?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, there's a difference between the production that you get from Trout and the production you get from like Paul Molitor. But, I mean, it hurts Paul Molitor that he spent the second half of his career being at DH. It hurts
Yeah,
Rafael Palmeiro.
yeah, but these guys are like iron gloves at not premium. Like Molitor was what, like a third baseman, a second baseman, and then a first baseman, and like Palmeiro's
Yeah,
first.
I
Like
think
Trout was an elite center fielder for a long time.
was he elite or was he just good? Because I know
Okay, even if he was
he
good.
looks elite, but I know that his defensive metrics being what they are. But I think his defensive metrics rate him as like middle of the
Oh,
pack.
can
But
we get
still,
stuck on metrics for a second? Can I
no,
bring
we
something
can't.
up?
Hold
Can
on,
I
hold
bring
on,
something
hold
up?
on, hold on. And some people look at metrics and they say,
I despise him.
but we
Some
don't
people,
say that.
some people
Okay,
call
we
me a
don't say
space
that.
cowboy.
We look at metrics and we say,
Wow, dude, this is awesome.
Ah, there it is.
I just
All right.
debuted our latest drop.
Yeah. So I don't know about you. And we only got 4 minutes left before we got to start the meeting. So let's make this quick.
I like
I
it.
don't know. I don't know about you, Tom. I've been having so much fun watching the Yankees just collapse because
Ooh, I
one,
did want to talk about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
because one, I've never liked the Yankees. I've always kind of thought Yankees fans were annoying, and they're also super successful. Like when I was growing up in like the mid 2000s, late 2000s, the Yankees were like the big bad like evil empire, and now they're really
Yeah.
not viewed that way as anymore. But like it's all kind of led to me just never liking the Yankees. I always kind of didn't like the Yankees, and so
Right.
it's fun from that regard. It's also hilarious to watch like the spoiled Yankees fans like just burn everything down because they're having one bad season when they have a entire history of excellence, which I also think is hilarious. But I want to get stuck on this.
Okay.
I think it's hysterical that the big thing that people are complaining about with Brian Cashman is analytics. And they're like, oh, they were banking on Josh Donaldson's exit velocity and they didn't get guys who could play real baseball. All right. That might be the case. I'm not
Okay.
super.
Wait, guys. Before we go any further, here comes the hot take. Be ready. Okay.
I don't think there's a hot take. I don't think there's
Put
a
your
hot take.
thermal gear on. No, it's a hot take. Ready?
Okay, it's a hot take.
Go. Hot take.
All right. I'm not particularly familiar with the Yankees front office as it functions on a day-to-day basis, so I don't know how analytical
Oh, I
they
can
are.
actually tell you how it functions. It functions like this.
Well, I think every front
That's
office functions that way.
that's how. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but so like I don't know the ins and outs of how they operate and how analytically driven they are and everything. I really have no clue. But let's say that's the case, right? Analytics, as the catch-all term that everybody uses, is not the problem. The problem isn't, oh, you're using too many numbers. Go out there and get like tobacco chewing, scotch swilling ball players. Like that's
go
not
out there
it.
and get a guy with a kid with a strong jawline.
Yeah, go get Jeremy Burnitz. Like, okay, like that's not the solution. I think that's a good immaculate grid guy, actually. Like that's not the solution. I think the issue, like you're misidentifying the problem, and people do this with everything. The Yankees are just the topic du jour.
Right. Yeah.
The issue is the application of that. So if they're pouring all this money into a research department that's pulling all these numbers and it's not working, then you're not using them right because they have access to the same numbers that the Astros and Rays are using to build excellence. You see what I'm saying? So like the problem is they don't have smart enough people, or they're not using it correctly to change a guy's spin rate or the velocity of whatever. You know what I mean? Like the issue isn't they're using too many numbers. The issue is they're using it poorly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's that, and I think it's also just like, yeah, Donaldson fell off a cliff really hard when the Yankees got him. Everybody they get is injury prone now.
Oh yeah.
Like, if they had a healthy Stanton all the time, if Judge didn't get hurt this year, if Josh Donaldson, he's actually a little bit of a little bit of a hydra of having a bad season this year because he's been unlucky. Okay. I don't want to say that he would be good if his luck was regular, but his BABIP is like 0.83. It's impossible to keep it that low. And yeah, like his line drive percentage, like he doesn't profile as like a good BABIP guy this year, but like 0.83 is unsustainable for anybody. Like I would have a higher BABIP than that in the majors. He's been unlucky in that way. He has been bad because his K rate's up and his walk rate is not good. And he's also hitting the ball on the ground a lot more, I think. And then also he gets hurt all the time. So it's like, well, yeah, he's going to have one of the worst seasons you could possibly have with its trifecta of terrible,
Yeah. Yeah, it's not going well.
Let's go to the other meeting so we can keep ragging on Josh Donaldson a little bit. You know what? He deserves it.
Yeah, you send me an invite.
All right, fine. Hey, tell me what to do. Try it again.
Die.
Guys, we were talking about Josh Donaldson, talking about the Yankees,
really quick. I just edit out like the breaks of us going like, hey, all right, why don't we start another meeting? So it just flows as one conversation. So you don't need to be like, all right, we're back. You can just jump right back into it.
Can you not give me stage notes while we're podcasting for once?
But I'll edit this out.
You're like, dude, it's crazy how much better at acting I am than you. We were talking about Josh Donaldson, all right? We're talking about the Yankees, talking about futility. Something that I think comes to mind for me is that the Rays and the Astros, I feel like
I really like something that I like how we're discussing. Like, what does the Yankees sucking mean to you?
Yeah, using I statement. Like the Rays and the Astros, a lot of the guys they bring up and like they bring dudes out of their farm system and make them awesome. And yeah, they're eventually, at least for the Rays, not really for the Astros, but eventually a lot of the time they end up leaving. The Yankees seem like they just go out and they're like, okay, let's get Garrett Cole, let's get, Carlos Rodon, let's get Josh Donaldson. And they just bring them in and they're like, okay, now be analytically amazing. It's like, well, you have to do something. Like, yeah, Garrett Cole has been very, very good for the Yankees, but Rodon's been terrible. Donaldson has not been all that good even when he was on the field. But, Stanton plays half seasons now. I don't know. They got Joey Gallo last year, and they're like,
oh.
I mean, Joey Gallo will forever be contentious because his OBP is tolerable. His batting average is intolerable. But then his slugging percentage and his defense are very good. So it's you have this guy he's like a two-tool player, but they're two of the weirdest combination of tools you could ever have. He's a glove power guy.
He amounts to a very productive player a lot of times. People just hate the way he gets there.
Well, very productive or a productive player?
I'm thinking of his all-star years on the Rangers. I would call him
good. Yeah, that's different. When you hit 40 homers, you have to be Adam Dunn levels of terrible at everything else. White Sox Adam Dunn to hit 40 homers and have a -4.
A is Adam Dunn.
Nah, A's Adam Dunn. His power was gone. It was sad.
Poor A's Adam Dunn finally made it to the playoffs in the last year of his career and then didn't get into the game.
Yeah. Yeah, they couldn't find a way to get him in, could they? You know what? It was the A's. It's not shocking.
Yeah, it's the A's.
I think that the great thing about the Yankees finally falling apart a little bit is like for a lot of the year they were above 500, and it's just that the AL East is just so good that they were in last place anyway. But now they lost what 9 in a row before yesterday.
They were really bad,
and it's like they finally they just had a proper run where they sucked.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I really like the comments on Reddit and stuff when Yankees fans just go ballistic over something, and every single comment is people being like, as a fan of literally any other team in the league, I promise you'll be okay with the Yankees being mid for one season.
Yeah, dude, I tweeted this during the playoffs last year. I retweeted it. Sorry, I didn't make it up, but I saw somebody who was bummed out because the Yankees didn't go to the World Series last year. They went to the ALCS. Wow, dude, I'm really bummed for you. And it was Yankees fans have had to put up with 13 years of failure, and it's you go back and it's ALCS, ALCS, ALDS, ALCS. It's dude, I would do anything to have that good of a run of a failure.
Imagine being a Mariners fan.
Yeah, dude. Imagine you're a Padres fan. Last year was probably the best shot they're ever gonna have to win a World Series, and those dudes who made that video where they're "That's what's in," they cursed them.
The poor '98 Padres were a really good team that ran into a buzzsaw Yankees team. I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, finally, dude, the Yankees are mid this year. They're not even terrible. They're just mid.
No, I mean, they're they're not a complete joke. They're not the A's or the Royals. They're just a bad team. It happens. It happens. It's fine.
You know what they're going to do? They're going to go out. They're going to sign a bunch of awesome free agents, and they'll be back.
Or
they're not
or they'll
going
clean
anywhere.
house, or they'll get rid of Boone and Cashman maybe, and they'll suck maybe next year, and then they'll start figuring it out. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the Phillies didn't make the playoffs for what 12 years. That felt like an eternity for me, and I feel like that's not even that bad. In the
we also we saw our World Series, imagine being imagine being a Cleveland fan, where the last World Series was 1948.
Now they did get to play in one of the greatest World Series ever played, if not the greatest.
Also, lose one of the most heartbreaking World Series ever, though.
Yeah, although I got to tell you, I'm not super fond of either of those teams, but that Cubs Indians World Series was the greatest stretch of games I've ever watched, other than maybe the bias that I have with the Phillies.
I don't know. Nationals Astros was incredible too.
Yeah, but I don't know that Rajay Davis homer though.
Yeah,
dude, that game.
I'm sorry. As a Phillies fan, you mean that Michael Martinez final out?
Oh, dude.
If I had told you aside in 2012 and told you that Michael Martinez would be making the final out in a World, that Michael Martinez would be playing in a World Series, how would you respond to me?
I would say, well, that makes sense because Michael Martinez is a world-class talent.
It is wild to me that Ruben Amaro Jr. played in 2 World Series. That's crazy.
Yeah, and he managed the Phillies to 0, so
Well, no, he general managed them 2-1. They just didn't win it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the 2009 World Series is a little bit of a heartbreaker. That was our first preview at ineffective Ryan Howard.
Yeah,
but he was really good, all playoffs, and then he was 0 for 12 in the World Series.
Yeah, but I think Utley went bananas that series, didn't he?
Yeah, Utley hit 5 home runs in that series.
Yeah, they just ran into Matsui and A-Rod and stuff. All right, we're way far afield, and this episode is going to be 3 hours. What I wanted to bring up today, Tom, and we don't have to get super into this, we don't have to go forever, but I wanted to bring up, I know this will certainly mean a lot to you. The FIBA World Cup starts tomorrow, as of recording this, on August 25th. And not FIFA, FIBA, so the Basketball World Cup.
Right.
And I got really into it last time around, the 2019 event, because I really like obviously the international aspect of sports. I'm really into that, as you know, with baseball, and basketball is actually even more so. It's a lot more spread out over the world. It's a lot more popular across the world, and the NBA has a lot more international
basketball
players.
has a lot more developed international scene.
I think basketball,
which is shocking, but it is.
I don't have numbers in front of me, but I think that the NBA has a lot more foreign talent than MLB. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but like MLB has like the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, and the US. Basketball has guys from like everywhere. You know what I mean? Like African countries, Eastern European countries, that kind of thing. Anyway, so I got really into it, and I watched the Australia Boomers, who have become my favorite team. Kind of in all sports. I have so much fun. Yeah, I have so much fun watching Australia, and they made this really great run. They lost by one bucket in the semifinals, and then they lost I think again by like one bucket, or maybe not. I don't know, but they lost again in like the bronze medal game. Yeah, they lost again in the bronze medal game, but they came back with a vengeance in the Tokyo Olympics, and they won bronze, which was the highest they've ever finished in anything, and it was awesome. And anyway, Australia's doing great. But that got me really, really into it. And I just really like the international competition aspect, I guess, of it. And it's coming up, as I said, tomorrow. And it kind of got me thinking. And I was like, okay, this is not on the level of the World Cup, of the soccer World Cup or the Olympics, because kind of nothing is. Like there's the Olympics and the FIFA World Cup are like worldwide extravaganzas with so much money and influence that nothing pretty much will ever overtake that. And then there's everything else. And the FIBA World Cup, though, is still really big. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, soccer is obviously the world's number one sport. Basketball doesn't rival it. Football, American football doesn't rival it. Hockey, baseball, none of those things rival it. It's soccer.
Right.
Cricket, I think cricket rivals it.
I think cricket is. I don't know that cricket's all that close, though. I think cricket. I think it's like soccer, cricket, and then it's like. And then whatever everything the third else, one is. So it's like
those
bowling,
Brits, dude, spreading everything.
Imagine like spreading your culture all over the world. I hope I never live in a country that does that. Unbelievable.
How dare they? So the FIBA World Cup's coming up, and it's gonna be really cool. And I got thinking about it, and I was like, okay, in terms of the WBC, this is way far ahead of the WBC. It's getting a lot more international exposure. I think rank and file basketball fans are a lot more into the FIBA World Cup than rank and file baseball fans are into the WBC.
Is there like that controversy that baseball has where people either think the World Baseball Classic's amazing or they think it's stupid, and they're like, why would people want to get hurt?
Okay, so I don't know. And I want to say I like basketball. It's like we were talking about this the other day, Tom. It's like my number two sport. Like that's the one I pay attention to the most. But I'm not anywhere close to being as knowledgeable on basketball as I am about baseball. So this is all anecdotal. I don't actually know. But I think most people like the FIBA World Cup. And so basically that's a good segue. And what I was going to say is I think the big difference, because MLB has plenty of money and they spent plenty of money on the WBC. And there are other nations that take it very seriously, like Japan, Korea, the U.S., the Dominican Republic, those that take it really, really seriously. The issue that I think a lot of people have is the players themselves. A lot of players choose not to participate. Every once in a while, a guy will get hurt, that kind of thing. And so that's like the thing holding it back. If we had, I shouldn't say that's the only thing holding it back, but that's one of the things holding it back. If we had every single player that could, the best players playing in the WBC, it'd be a lot better off. And the FIFA World Cup, I think, has this down. Like, I think it's not an issue that people don't play for their country. I think it's like you're shamed and humiliated if you don't play for your country. Right. I think. I'm not an expert on the FIFA World Cup, but I think that's the way it is. And the Basketball World Cup is like splitting the difference, but I think they're a lot better with player buy-in than the WBC. Like, there are some holdouts, and Team USA is the problem because they're running like a B team out there. And obviously the United States is so dominant at everything that their B team is still like the favorites to win the whole thing. But like they don't have LeBron James, Steph Curry, those guys. They have like Jalen Brunson, who's like an all-star. Like he's good. Like Brandon Ingram, he's very good, but he's not LeBron James.
So they're treating it like Team USA in the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like
although this time they did
with one arm tied behind their back.
Yeah, exactly. But like they're so good that like they're still the favorites to win, I think.
Right.
But other than that, like pretty much every country has like their top guys. Nikola Jokic, who just won MVP, isn't playing for Serbia, and like Giannis can't play for Greece because he just had knee surgery. But for the most part, everybody's bought in.
Dude, and imagine being Team Serbia and you're like, okay, well at least we got that guy, and he's like, oh, I can't play.
Oh my gosh, no,
I guess we're finishing last.
No, I think the funny, because Serbia does have at least some still very good NBA players, but I think the thing that's hilarious is Greece had Giannis, Giannis is probably the best player in the NBA, top 5. He's amazing, and he gets knee surgery and he can't play. And I don't know their roster, so they could have a couple other NBA guys. I think they have his brother who plays for the Bucks. But I was reading an article, and it was like Greece may be missing Giannis, but they can still count on big man Yorgos Papa Nicholas, I think is his name, or Yorgos Papa Giannis, which is a hilarious name. Which is an amazing name.
Ruthlessly Greek name.
Yeah, that's such a good name. But that guy was like a big time draft bust like 5 years ago. Like that's like their second in line.
Oh,
you know
man.
I mean? Yeah, which is hilarious.
So they're like Colombia in the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah,
like
it's not going to go
one relevant player. They have they got Jose Quintana, and hey, if he gets hurt, I mean, at least they can count on like the corpse of Carlos Lee.
Yeah, it's not going to go. But so the thing with player buy-in is, and I think this is really important, the mid-tier teams, I shouldn't say mid-tier, the non-elite teams,
the Yankees tier teams,
have, I think, pretty much all their guys. So I'll use Australia as the example because I'm well versed in them.
Is Australia mid-tier?
I think Australia's ranked like 3rd in the world. They're really good, but the point is, like the top teams in the world are like the U.S. obviously. And then France and Spain, I think, are like elite. Like they can win a gold medal like in any event.
Okay.
And I think Australia is like solidly right below them, I think. But like Australia doesn't have really any superstars like LeBron James. They've got a guy named Josh Giddey who's like a rising up and coming guy with the Thunder who's gonna be really good. But like they don't have any like LeBron type guys. But they have all their guys. There's a guy, a power forward on the Rockets named Jock Landale who just got hurt, but he was committed to play. So they have every NBA player.
Australia sounds like, if this was the World Baseball Classic, if I was going for my dark horse, since I took Venezuela in the World Baseball Classic, it sounds like I would take Australia here.
Yeah, they're like Venezuela, Mexico, sort of that tier of like, they're not US, Japan like level elite, but like they're very good. And like they could beat the US on a bad US night. You know what I mean? Like I bet my house the US would win, but like I don't want to bet my house because they, you know what I mean? Because they could
do it.
I'll wait. Well, I don't think they'll play each other. But the point is, Australia has all their guys. They actually turned down NBA players. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, yeah, that you know what, that sums it up.
Yeah, exactly. Like they turned down, and like not elite NBA, but they were turning down NBA talent. And like 4 years ago, that wasn't the case. So like player buy-in is like real in the FIBA World Cup, and like people like they're really excited. Like there was a guy named Matthew Dellavedova who won a championship with the Cavs with LeBron, and he was like pretty big. Yeah, it's a good name. And he was like pretty big a little while ago, and he's kind of fallen off now, and now he's like a reserve player. But it was like an issue. Like he was like pissed that he didn't make the team, and now he's like, oh, I'm going to come back with a vengeance to earn a spot on the Tokyo or the Paris Olympic squad. Like it's like it matters to these guys, and I don't think the World Baseball Classic really has that cachet outside of a few nations. Man,
yeah, I was going to say I don't think that's fully true. That's true in the United States, especially with pitchers, but I don't know. I mean, a lot of other countries were like, I would say they had that level of buy-in. Like I would say Mexico did. Japan always does. Who else? I think Australia was kind of starting to get into it as much as they could, you know, as much as there is an Australian baseball fan base. But like all of the Latin American countries have that level of buy-in. Like I think Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. It's just the Dominicans kind of pooped the bed real hard this time around. But like Mexico kind of had like a dream run. And like, I mean, even like Chinese Taipei, like the Taiwanese fans going absolutely crazy at every game. I think the problem is that we live in the United States, so we see the level of buy-in that like 50% of American baseball fans have, which is, oh, this is just fancy spring training. And America is the biggest baseball market, so, you know, we have an outsized influence on the way that it's perceived. But I think the World Baseball Classic's probably a little closer to that than you're making it seem. Maybe I'm being optimistic.
Maybe. Well, so here's what I was going to bring up.
The problem is the U.S., which, you know, it matters a lot.
Exactly.
So
the problem is the U.S. And so I did read an article, and I don't know if this is true. I'm assuming it is, but what they were saying was the Olympics. I think I have this right. The Olympics are next year, and the FIBA World Cup is this year.
Okay.
And I think it like really takes a lot out of your off season to play on like a national team like this because you got all these training camps, you got to do practices and stuff, and then you have a basketball tournament which is like 2 weeks, and you have qualifiers and stuff before that and everything. So it's like you don't have that much of an off season. So what I think it was Brian Windhorst was saying was like if you're Kevin Durant, you kind of got to pick one. You can't go 2 off seasons in a row of not having an off season. Maybe that I'm not sure how.
Oh, what's it like? They want to play in the Olympics, so they're not playing in this.
Yeah, exactly. Like they played in the Olympics last time. They're probably going to play in the Olympics this time, so they took this one off. I'm not 100% sure if that's the case, but like, okay, I can understand. But like basketball has the same problem where like the American stars are sitting out, and the rest of the world is playing for the most part. And the WBC had that problem. Like the U.S. they got Trout and stuff, and Harper was going to play until he got hurt. Like they got some guys, but like the U.S. did not bring its A game. You could argue that it didn't even really bring
it was the pitching was the problem.
It was the pitching.
The position players
that is a big issue. That is a big issue in baseball. Like basketball, it's 5 guys on the floor. They all relatively do the same activity. Baseball is different. Like pitchers don't want to get hurt. Batters can sort of afford to do it. It's different. I understand, but like I think what I'm getting at here is that basketball is in such a better spot internationally that the U.S. not caring isn't as big of a blow because the rest of the world is so good.
Right.
When the U.S. doesn't care in baseball, it kind of tanks the tournament. It doesn't tank the tournament. It was still awesome, but like it everybody sits there and goes, man, this would be so much cooler if the U.S. put together its best squad. In basketball, it doesn't feel that way because Spain's still amazing, France is still amazing. You know what I mean? Like there's still like legitimate NBA stars taking place, whereas in baseball, it's more like, yeah, Ohtani played for another team, like that was really cool, but like it's the U.S. Am I making sense?
I mean, you're right about the U.S., but like, I think that we've been shown at this point that when NPB puts together a team of its stars, it is a world-class team. So, there is that. A lot of stars showed up for other teams. A lot of young guys showed up for other teams too. Like I think Italy had a decent number of young guys that people otherwise weren't going to get to see. The qualifiers I think might have been a little bit better for that. But I mean Great Britain had some too. We talked to our boy Donovan about Harry Ford and dudes like that. The problem is the United States, which sucks because baseball's American sport. We're supposed to be like the baseball capital, and it's the same thing with basketball. Basketball's an American sport. But
basketball has done such a better job of growing internationally.
Yeah. What is like the Japan of basketball? Like what's like the
probably France,
secondary
Spain,
capital?
I am not an expert, but I think France and Spain are like the clear next, and I think Australia is actually getting to that point. They're really good, but I think France and Spain are like the clear, like they consistently send guys into the NBA every year. They send like absolute stars like Pau Gasol and Tony Parker
and like.
And like the number 1 overall pick for the Spurs, this guy Victor Wembanyama, who like could be like one of the greatest players of all time, is from France. Like,
there's a lot of Eastern European basketball players too, right? There's a lot of dudes
there are a lot of like Serbia, Croatia, like teams like that have sent some really good players in the NBA. So I want to get into a couple like practical things though that I think that the WBC could learn from, and one thing in particular is. They're not just following the money. And I understand pretty much any sporting event is a money grab. Like I'm not saying money's not involved here. That's what sports is all about. People aren't playing for free. But the host nations of this year's World Cup are the Philippines, Indonesia, and Japan. Not basketball powerhouses. Like I don't think
I guess that they're doing this as like an outreach thing.
I think so. And China was one last time. China was the host nation last time, and China, like, Yao Ming was a Hall of Famer, but like China does not have like a flourishing basketball scene, as far as I know. I shouldn't say that because they're a very big basketball market, but they don't have like an amazing team or anything.
Yeah,
and
I was going to say it seems like it seems like the way that China works in like everything is that they're a huge market for it, even if they don't like produce it that much
Yeah,
themselves.
that's a good way to put it because the NBA gets a ton of money from China, but they're not producing stars. What I
Well, and
mean.
look at like
Um,
movies. Like the Chinese box office is like as important as the US box
oh
office at
yeah,
this point for movies. So
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's probably the same kind of thing where it's just like there's so many people and there's so many people who are like just getting into like what we would consider like a modern standard of living in China that they're just hungry for this stuff and they, it's like, oh, well, let's get basketball over there before they
yeah,
fill it with
yeah.
something else.
But so here's my thing though. Think about where and like Indonesia is not like I don't even think they have a team in the World Cup. They might just by virtue of being a host, but like they're not good. And
Right.
the Philippines is like I think like a little bit up and coming. They have a guy named Kai Soto who like could be a prodigy, but like they're not a good team. But
Right.
they're like fertile soil, I suppose. And
Right.
if you look at the WBC, like where do they host their games? The US, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, right? Like
Yeah.
like they hosted two separate pools in the US. Like what is going on here? Like they're going where the money is there. And I understand they're going where the facilities are and stuff too. But
Yeah.
like you're telling me there's not one park in Australia they could host a round at. Like you're telling me there's not one park in like Germany, like they played in Germany
Yeah,
for the qualifiers
Regensburg.
and stuff. Yeah, like they're chasing the money, and like if you look at like yeah, the host Japan has incredible turnout. Host Korea has incredible turnout. When you watch like Australia versus Czech Republic in Japan, how much money are they making off of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I
also like
mean,
if you host it somewhat close to Japan, they'll travel. Like I don't want to get into like the finance of it because I really don't know. But like it really bothers me that they're like this is what MLB does and this is what corporations do a lot of time. They're chasing like the short-term dollar at the expense of like long-term growth. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think that they're kind of just banking on like, okay, well, the Czechs show up and they qualify for next year, so baseball interest in the Czech Republic and Slovakia is going to rise, which, to be fair, is like kind of what happened. But
But like they're
like,
not doing anything to help it along.
yeah, I don't think any of those fans got to go to any of the games. Like they probably got to go. I know that like a couple of Czech fans got to go to games in Regensburg for the qualifiers, which if you
Well,
were
that's
going to pick
doable.
one, that was the game to go to. But
Yeah.
it does seem like what you're talking about with the basketball with FIBA, which I'm never going to be able to take that acronym seriously.
Yeah.
But it sounds like MLB likes to do that in the qualifiers and then put the real games in like, the US and Japan, which is like, yeah, the US and Japan have the most and the most expensive and the most seating accommodations baseball stadiums. So, like, I get it. But yeah, it would be kind of nice like, if you could promise, like, a Team Australia versus, like Japan versus Korea, if you could promise a game like that in Australia, like, you'd probably find somebody who'd be willing to put up a stadium. I mean, Brazil put up how many stadiums to host the Olympics?
Right. Well, and the other thing is like
I mean, it might be different because the Olympics is just crazy money, but
well,
uh, uh,
but the other thing is yeah, and that's a lot of government funding too. But the other thing is
yeah,
is like look at the players and the qualif and I'm not trying to demean them, they're all better than I am, but like take like the Regensburg qualifiers that we watched, which were super fun.
right,
The like who were the draws with name value there? Like Vance Worley, Aaron Altair. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
cool. Like I'm
Martin
really glad
Chervenka,
yeah, like
you
I'm really
know,
glad they played, but like if I'm like how cool would it be to see like Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani play in Germany? Like I think if you're like a German like if you're a German person with like a passing interest in baseball, Mike Trout's going to get a lot. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have a lot better shot of hooking them in with stars than with Aaron Altair. All
I
due
think
respect,
Otani is the guy that you
Otani's the
would do
guy.
that with because Otani is Otani is like the Pele of or like the David Beckham of baseball. Like he's kind of the closest thing we've had to Babe Ruth in a long time, where he's just a star who kind of
Ubiquitous, yeah,
arguably transcends the game.
yeah.
But like uh it is a little bit of a question of like what do you start with? Do you start with developing interest or do you start with sending stars there? It's like if you
Can't you do both?
probably, I don't know. I mean, I don't run MLB organizations, but like if you send Otani, if you send Team Japan to go play the Czechs in the Czech Republic, and like 8,000 people show up, they probably would be like, okay, we're never doing that again. Even though my guess would be 8,000 people would be an amazing turnout for a baseball game in the Czech Republic. But like, I think they want to be like, hey, let's send Otani to games where you can have like 60,000 people show up or whatever, standing room only. Which, like, yeah, we've talked about before how we're not interested in teams making money because we're baseball fans. Like, yeah, no, go ahead, make money. We don't have a problem with it. It's just that's not what we're rooting for, Like, we want the game
I guess
to be
that's
better.
what bothers
We want to
me.
watch
Like,
good games. Yeah.
but like that's what it comes down to. Like they're prioritizing making the money off of the extra 40,000 fans they can fit in than the fact that baseball as a whole will be better down the line. It's the same issue with blackouts. It's MLB keeps doing this themselves. The other thing, because we can go on about MLB forever. The other thing is that bothers me that I think they could fix is qualification. And I don't know that much about FIBA qualification. I don't know if there are any automatic berths or anything. I didn't get that far into it. But like everybody's playing the qualifiers. Like Australia played, US played, France, Spain, all of them had to qualify. And like,
yeah, I think I saw the US versus Canada on TV at the gym the other day. I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. Like first of all, they're the US, they're Spain, they're France, and like they're gonna qualify. It's fine. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's fine. I like that though, that everybody has to qualify, and especially for the WBC. And I'll explain why. There were some significant omissions in this World Cup. Like I think the Czech Republic, Poland, Nigeria, like teams with solid basketball programs, I think, that have players in the NBA didn't make the cut. And teams like Angola, Cape Verde, that have never sniffed the World Cup before, that I don't think have any NBA players, like maybe one, made it. And like, are they going to go anywhere in the tournament? Probably not. But like, how big of a deal is that for Angola basketball? It's huge. You know what I mean? Whereas baseball, like the World Baseball Classic, has 4 spots up for grabs, like every single time, and they had 12 teams competing to make those spots, I think. And so it's like,
wasn't it more?
I think it was 6 in each qualifier, wasn't it?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But the thing that bothers me is, okay, you have 16 teams that are guaranteed a spot, and I don't agree with that to begin with, because there were teams in there. Like, I love the Czech Republic. I thought it was awesome they played, and I was really glad they earned a spot over China.
Right.
I'd be okay with making the Czech Republic qualify again. Like, I don't think they're like a baseball powerhouse that just has earned the right to be there year in and year out. But I also like the idea of making the U.S. qualify again. Like, if somebody can knock off the U.S., good on you, man. You know what I mean? Like,
also, like, something that you could do is, if you're Team USA, you can send your D squad to qualifiers.
Yeah.
Put a bunch of prospects out there, let them play. Like, top U.S. prospects are going to crush, like, half the countries in the world. The same for Japanese prospects. Will go out there and smoke, like, half the countries in the world. Like,
right.
Like, the U.S. could send, like, a D1 college team and probably, like 10 run Australia. You know?
Right. Well, and the thing is, like, I understand you want to have name value to some degree. So, like, maybe make it like the top 2 teams in each pool automatically qualify. So that way, like, the U.S., now I guess not the Dominican Republic this year, but like the U.S., Venezuela, Japan, all those, like, they automatically get in. And then a team that vastly underperforms, like Korea, earn your way back in. And I like the idea now of, like, I don't understand why it's so exclusive. Because it was like, okay, like, what teams qualified this year? It was the Czech Republic and Great Britain, right? And then it was Panama, Nicaragua, I think. And then these interesting countries like Brazil and, like, Germany, like, they didn't make it. Spain. And I don't, Spain. Like, I don't like that there weren't enough spots up for grabs. And listen, if they did it my way and there were 12 spots up for grabs, Spain still might not have made it. Brazil still might still not have made it. It's not about Brazil. It's about why are we so married to having this pretty much the same tournament every single time? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like why don't we have it more up for grabs? And if Argentina goes on a hell of a run, then let them into the tournament. Like that'd be cool. Go ahead. Like I
I guess the question would be, and I agree. Like I honestly wouldn't mind if just everybody had to qualify every year. It's like the U.S. will, Japan will, Korea will, like who else? DR will, Puerto Rico, Venezuela. Like they're all going to qualify. They could send whoever they want and qualify. Like how many really well developed basketball countries are there? Because with baseball, I mean, counting Puerto Rico, which is not its own country, so they're sort of fudging that a little bit.
Less than 10.
Like, there's like 6 countries. I guess Mexico probably counts at this point. So you got like 6,
Northern
7 countries.
Mexico. Yeah.
But Mexico put together a fantastic team this year. They had like arguably like the 3rd best team in the tournament.
Yeah.
If not the 2nd best. They were probably on the whole a little bit better on average than the US. Like their pitching was way better. But like if you only have like 7 countries, like they're probably just like, okay, just send all 7 of them because we need to fill out this tournament and then we can have qualifiers with the rest of them. I don't see why not have qualifiers for everybody, except I guess just that it costs money. But
yeah, I guess so.
But again, we're not really that interested in, like Rob Manfred's salary getting like boosted every year.
Well, and the other thing and I understand this is different for baseball than it is for basketball, but they have Olympic qualification tied to the World Cup, I think. So like if like I'm not that well versed in it, so I'm not sure. But basically what I'm getting at is there are Olympic berths up for grabs in this tournament, right?
Right.
So like if you play well enough and make it far enough, you can make the Olympics. I understand with baseball you couldn't do that this time around because it's not going to be the Olympics. But like the Olympics are going to have baseball in 2028. So like the 2027 WBC, like why don't you talk to the Olympic Committee and say like, hey, let's say there's going to be 8 teams. What if we had 4 spots up for grabs in the WBC? Well, I think that would matter to a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Now, something I'm thinking of in terms of like, if you're going to do qualifiers for everybody, I think my understanding is that you do the qualifiers all in like one spot for like soccer and like basketball and all that type of stuff. I know that like MLB teams will frequently like rent out their spring training facility like in the middle of the season when like nobody's using it anymore. Like why wouldn't you just like talk to some MLB teams like either in Arizona or Florida and just be like, hey, get like 5-6 stadiums and just host qualifiers at spring training stadiums. And then, like the fact that the Czechs are not going to be able to pay, whatever it would cost to rent the stadium. Like I'm sure Team USA could pick up some of the slack.
Right.
I'm sure Japan could. It'll be fine.
Or MLB could.
Yeah. I mean, weird. No, come on, dude. What do we expect MLB to develop the game of baseball? But like, and these dudes from like the Czech Republic and like Colombia and like dudes coming over from China and Australia. Like, they don't really even get to play in stadiums that are as nice as spring training stadiums. They're going to be better facilities than they ever get to use. I think a lot of them rent them out to do their own version of, like, spring training anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, why wouldn't you just work with that? I mean, I could be just making stuff up, but it seems to me like if you had, like, a qualifier tournament and just got everybody together, come on down. Maybe the problem is that they do it during spring training. I guess that would be the problem.
But you could hold the qualifiers like in like September the year before, like they already do.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? Yeah, actually, you're right.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up with the World Cup, and we can be done after this, is I really do see the FIBA World Cup as like the next step of evolution for the WBC, because people like to compare the WBC to the Olympics and the FIFA World Cup, and maybe
which is just not on that level.
I mean, that would be. I would love to see that, but I think at least in our lifetimes, Tom, it's just not going to be that big, and that's okay.
Right.
But I do think
we don't have like 180 baseball countries.
But I do think with a lot of work and making the right decisions, the WBC could get on the level of the Basketball World Cup, and I think that one of the big things that people get bothered by, not me, I love this, but one of the things that bothers people is the eligibility requirements. And they say like, oh, you just let anybody play for anybody. It's stupid. They're not even real citizens. I think there's perfectly valid reasons to allow people to play it. It spreads out the talent. It lets teams that wouldn't have talent otherwise have talent. And it's just
I think we've discussed before that it's a necessary evil, even if you don't like it.
I don't even call it an evil. I think it's great, but I understand other people don't like that. However, we think it's necessary. MLB thinks it's necessary. The World Baseball Classic thinks it's necessary. However, basketball, it seems, isn't in that predicament because they don't hold to that. What they do is you have to have citizenship. And on top of that, you can have one naturalized player. So, for instance, Australia, every player has to hold an Australian passport, which is not the case of the WBC. You just have to be eligible for it. But on top of that, you can only have one player who's a naturalized citizen, as opposed, what do you call the other one, like a birthright?
Natural born.
Yeah, I guess so. So, like, by naturalized, it means like you acquire citizenship later in life, so you're not born a citizen.
So only one Randy Arozarena.
Exactly. So, in the case of Australia, they have a guy named Matisse Thybulle, who was a two-time, I think, all defensive player on the Sixers. He got traded to the Trailblazers. He's very good. And he grew up in Australia for a little while, I think, and he's now representing them. And he's an Australian citizen. He just wasn't born there. He moved there as a kid. He's their guy. There's another guy named Bryce Cotton who played like a handful of games, I think, for the Grizzlies or I don't know, something like that. And he was like okay in the NBA. He's gone over and played in Australia professionally. He married an Australian woman. He lives there now, and I think he's in the process of getting citizenship. So there was like this big debate in Australian basketball circles of who do you take? Do you take Bryce Cotton? He's the scorer, or do you take Thybulle for the defense? They opted for Thybulle. But the point is, you can only have one guy. You can only have one guy who's like loose with the rules. Everybody else has to be like an Australian through and through, and every team holds to those rules, right? So. I think that's a little strict. Obviously, basketball rosters are smaller. They're only 12-man rosters, whereas the WBC was, I think, 28. But like that, I think that could be the compromise later on. You know what I mean? For the WBC, if it grows to the point where they feel like they don't need to just let anybody and everybody play, you could do something like that. You could do maybe like half your team has to be citizens, or a quarter of your team can be, foreign imports, something like that. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be all or nothing, which I think people turn the argument into of like, you have to be a citizen. And it's like, well, if that's the case, then only a couple of countries are going to be good. But also people get bothered when nobody.
Only a couple of countries are even going to be able to put a team together.
Yeah. But it also bothers people when teams like Israel and Italy have like pretty much all foreign imports. So like,
they're just the American JV squad.
Yeah, exactly. So like you could do something like that. So I really feel like if baseball gets its act together, develops well in other countries, and just spreads out throughout the world and gets the talent base less concentrated in the United States, and they make good business decisions, which we know MLB is so good at, I really think they could get on par with the Basketball World Cup, and I think that would be wonderful. So I guess I just wanted to bring this up on the podcast because I think we're looking at it wrong and saying like, man, how cool would it be to be like the FIFA World Cup or the Olympics? And that's just not practical, at least within the next 50 years, I think. I think this is more the outline they should be moving towards. You know what I mean? And the other thing is the WBC started with 16 teams and now it's moved up to 20. The FIFA World Cup, I think, has 64 teams. And then obviously the Olympics are different. I don't know about anything about that. But the FIBA World Cup has 32 teams. That's something that the World Baseball Classic. It's a reachable
number.
You could look forward to that. I already think they could expand to 24. I think there were 4 teams in the qualifiers that missed out that could play. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think it's totally doable. So I don't know. I just think that's the blueprint they should be following for the most part. I don't know if I trust MLB to do it. you know?
No, I mean, to be fair, yeah, we talk about MLB, who expecting them to commit money to running the game. We beat that to death a little bit. The World Cup continues to be the biggest sporting event ever.
Right.
FIFA's a million times worse than MLB.
Oh, dude, FIFA's terrible. I don't want to get into FIFA.
FIFA actually just crosses the line into straight up being like the mob.
I will say we hate MLB because they're, I don't want to say corrupt, but they're annoying and they're inept and they're short-sighted and they're greedy. There's not like a benevolent sports association out. Like I don't want it to think like, oh man, if they could just be like the NHL, the NFL, and the NBA are all terrible. NCAA is 10 times worse than any of those. The
Yeah,
International Olympic Committee is like criminal. FIFA's criminal. Like everybody's dirty. You know what I mean? Like there's there's no organization out there that I'm looking at as like a paragon of
right.
virtue. MLB
I
is just
do
the one that
love that
bothers
the
me the
World
most.
Cup is slowly turning into like countries that are dictatorships that like violate everybody's human rights are like, well, dude, if we just build a bunch of stadiums and throw on the World Cup for a year, everybody's gonna love us and they're not gonna run bad press about us
Yeah,
anymore.
and then all the
So
FIFA
it's
officials
like
just pop. Yeah,
Dubai, like where like Qatar, Saudi
yeah.
Arabia, they're all like, yo, let's get into this World Cup action. You
Yeah,
know, then
China, Brazil.
then
Yeah,
people
it's an
won't look
issue.
at that women aren't allowed to drive in our country.
No, it's despicable. It's despicable.
Yeah,
And to make it even worse, FIFA just pockets the money and goes, "Let's do it." Like they
yeah,
literally just buy people's vote. It's horrible. I
right.
that we don't need to get into that.
So we don't
Um,
want MLB to be like that, but
no,
in
yeah,
terms of running a tournament that has actual international championship status, that is what we want.
yeah, exactly.
Because you win the
Um,
World Cup, I don't think anybody has any doubt that that's the ultimate like soccer championship, right? Whereas the
I think so.
status of the World Baseball Classic is still kind of up in the air for a lot of people.
Yeah, it depends on what
Although I
country
think
you're
we are
from.
getting closer to people treating that like the real World Championship.
Yeah, I would agree. Should we do Immaculate Grid real quick before we log off?
Well, we will not be doing Immaculate Grid because we both already played it
Mm,
today, but we do have Dollar Store Immaculate Grid that you
yeah,
found.
yeah.
So, can you, what's it called?
It's called Crossover Grid.
Crossover Grid. Yeah, I want to be
And
able to look at it also.
And to our listeners, all two of them, we already did Immaculate Grid today, so we're using this one. But we wanted to do one live. Do you have it up?
Yeah, dude, what the switch hitter home run, right and left side home run?
Does that mean you have
Oh,
to homer from both sides of the plate?
hopefully not in the same game
All
because
right. Well, here,
that's
for instance,
impossible.
Braves switch it. You want to just go with Chipper?
Um, Wait, was Kelly Johnson a switch hitter?
Nah, he was just left-handed.
Just lefty. No, do Mark Teixeira.
Okay. Mark Teixeira. 5.3%. Excellent.
Hell yeah, you see that?
All
You were
right.
gonna punt and do Chipper.
Who was a Cubs
For
switch hitter
for
then?
Brewers played for 5+ teams. We have to do LaTroy Hawkins, right?
Oh, ready? I already got this sorted ready, so we'll do Latroy and then Diamondbacks, Edwin Jackson, dude.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're gonna go with
You want
it.
to do him?
Two old standbys. Played for 5+ teams. Switch hitter home run. What are we gonna go with? Carlos Beltran.
Uh, yeah, I'm trying. Who else was like a switch hitter that made the rounds? No, there's got to be like a switch hitter that. Well, was Victorino 5+? He was a Padre. He was a Philly. He was a Dodger. He was a Red
A
Sox. He was an
Red
Angel.
Sox. Oh, there you go. Yeah, do Shane Victorino.
All right.
I hope he doesn't have to homer from both sides on all those teams.
All right. Victorino didn't get it, so I guess that is not
I
how
put
it
in
works.
Beltran. He was 19%. So,
All right. Beautiful.
but you know what?
Um,
We're gonna count it as we didn't get that one.
Yeah. All right. So Diamondbacks, Braves. Was David DeLucci a Diamond or a Brave?
I don't know. I think all I know him as is an Indian, a Philly. Wasn't he a Marlin?
I feel like he might have been a Brave or a Cub, both. But I'm not 100% on that.
Hold on, I'm filling in
I
our.
mean,
Who do we have for? Who do
Cubs,
we have for
Diamondbacks.
Cubs switch hitter home run? Do we do? Was Milton Bradley a switch hitter?
I don't remember.
I'm doing it. Milton Bradley.
All right.
Look at that, 1.5%. Nailed
All
it.
right. I'm filling it in with you. All right.
Milton Bradley, baby. Okay,
All
LaTroy
right.
Hawkins.
So Mark Grace is obvious for Cubs,
Yeah,
Diamondbacks.
that's too easy.
Wait, was Chris Capuano ever a Cub?
I don't know.
Oh, he'd be a good one.
Cubs, Diamondbacks. Was Sean Dunston a Diamondback?
I don't know. I know he was a Giant. That's a good name.
Um, We're doing Cubs, Diamondbacks.
This is
I don't
tough.
was Ian Happ ever a
No, he just came up with
Diamondback?
Cubs. Did
Uh,
Steve Finley make an appearance with the Cubs of the Braves?
I don't know.
That's too. Yeah, that's too. That's too out there.
For
How
D-backs, I
about?
mean, you could do Kelly Johnson for D-backs Braves while
You're
we
right.
got Kelly Johnson on the brain.
Yeah. When don't you have him on the brain?
That's true.
Beautiful. 2.2%. All
Excellent.
right.
Excellent.
Cubs D backs. I'm trying. Is there like a pitcher maybe?
I think like Carlos Silva.
I
I
know he
don't
was
think
a
he was a I don't think he
no.
was a D-back.
He was a
Um,
Philly and a Mariner and a Twin. Um, man, this is tough. How about? Oh, wait, did Miguel Montero go to the Cubs?
I believe he did.
Should we try that?
Yeah, try Montero. That's a good one.
Perfect. 8.7%.
There we go.
That's
There we
that
go.
seems really high to me. Um,
Yeah, but he was like kind of good on the Diamondbacks. So
was he?
yeah, was Matt
Um,
Williams ever a Cub?
no.
I mean, not that we need to do it now, but
Yeah.
if we're
No,
doing
I don't think it was.
Brewers Cubs,
Um,
there's got to be a good rando for this.
did
It's
Trevor
just
was Trevor Cahill came to mind.
was he a Brewer?
I don't know. I don't
I don't
know.
think he was a Brewer.
I don't know.
Okay. Look, do we have Brewers Braves? Did we do that one yet?
No, I don't have one yet.
Hold on. I gotta fill out the grid. I'm not keeping up with it. Kelly Johnson,
Oh,
who
wait. Was Mark DeRosa a Brewer? I don't think he was.
I can't confirm.
Or was Craig Counsell ever a Cub? How about that?
I only remember him as a Brewer, dog.
Hmm. Well, he was
Who
a
was
D-back
our
and a Marlin.
who was our D-backs played for 5+ teams?
Edwin Jackson.
Okay, Edwin Jackson. Just bang that out real
Um,
quick.
yeah.
So we need to think about Brewers players.
Yeah.
Was like
Who?
Braden Looper ever on either of these teams?
I don't know. I didn't even. Was he a Brewer? Um,
Yeah,
Doug Davis, maybe. Was he a Cub?
he might have been, but I don't know for sure.
I don't think.
Ramos Ramirez was a Brewer and
Yeah.
a Cub. That's a little
He,
obvious, but
yeah, he might be a little obvious. Oh, I got it. I got it. I got it. Cubs Brewers. Matt Garza.
is that
3.3%.
that's less obvious than a Ramos Ramirez?
I don't know. I put him in 3.3%.
I don't know. Hold on, I'm putting in a Ramos Ramirez. Let's see.
All right.
Ramos Ramirez. 23%. Okay, you're right. You win. You
All
win.
right. Braves Brewers.
Uh I mean Orlando Arcia, but that's
Yeah.
too obvious. Um do they have any
Oh,
pitchers
I got it. 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 I got it.
is it who is it?
Ben Sheets.
Yeah. All right, what's
All
the
right.
percentage?
My my score came out to 136 because I got one wrong.
Uh Mine came out to 75. I think it's exclusively because I put in Carlos Beltran as opposed to getting it wrong.
I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, like I wish they would put like explanations in like exactly what you need to put, you know?
Um,
Um,
I don't know.
yeah,
I think usually
Brewers 5+ teams. Zach Greinke was the most answered. Zach Greinke does not come to mind as a Brewer for me. You know what I mean?
no, yeah, not at all. I'm thinking like who would be another like was Matt Stairs a Brewer?
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at all if he was,
I mean,
but I
Matt
don't know.
Stairs played on like every team. Uh, 5+ teams is getting into like you played on a lot of teams territory.
Yeah,
But I think
maybe like Mike Cameron or Bill Hall.
Oh, would have been a good one.
I mean, he might have played for like 4 teams, though. I don't know.
He was a Brewer, a Padre, a
A
Red
Red
Sox.
Sox.
I think he was a Pirate, wasn't he?
Was he a Giant, maybe?
I don't know. I don't know.
Hmm.
But you know what? 1.5% for LaTroy Hawkins. That's a good one. I think we did good.
I'm proud of Ben Sheets, man.
I don't know. I'm proud of Milton Bradley
Yeah,
for
Milton
switch
Bradley's
hitter home
really
run.
good. I'll put up pictures, by the way, for those listening.
Yeah, put up a picture of our grids.
Yeah, LaTroy Hawkins is really funny.
Guys, play crossover grid, okay? Because you know what? We all love Immaculate Grid, but you can only play it once a day. Like, what the
Yeah.
hell is that? We, on the other hand, not we, this is more of a Ethan exclusively found crossover grid. I couldn't be happier, except for one thing that it comes out with that really blows is they will have teammate of a player, and it's not the player's name, it's just a picture of the player. And it's
Yeah.
always paired with like home run in the World Series. And you're like, dude, come on.
Yeah,
It's
like
like
who?
home run in the World Series,
Yeah.
teammates with like Ryan Roberts. Like, what?
I mean, he was a Red Sox, so I guess you could do Ortiz or something. I don't know. But
Yeah. Yeah, but you have to know that. That's the
yeah, I know.
problem.
They get a little too zany, I think. But
Yeah, I think it's
I
meant
do.
to be like Immaculate Grid hard mode, but you
Yeah.
know. But listen, still a good time. Play it, you know. And you know what? Send them money. Just give them money for no reason. And then be like, yeah, the baseball podcast sent us, and then they'll sponsor us. So there you go.
Yeah. This is gonna be a long one.
Yeah, this has been the baseball podcast. I realize, guys, I want to apologize because we really didn't talk about anything interesting today. And when do we ever?
Yeah,
But for those of you who stuck around, you know, I do want to say I want to say this to you.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Why don't you
Okay.
introduce him to our friend?
To our friend.
What's his name?
I don't know who you're talking about.
You got to remind me his name.
Well, so we were playing, you know, crossover grid just now, and let's say, for example, you had Braves Giants. Okay, who's somebody you could throw out for that? You know, there's a couple.
Maybe a second baseman.
Yeah, you know, you need a second baseman.
Hey, Mark DeRosa. There you go.
Yeah, somebody who's good at, you know, letting people know that it's time to not be podcasting anymore.
Yeah.
And there's really only one guy I can think of who
What's his
qualifies. Well, I've sent this to New York. Okay, we've looked over the tapes. We watched everything in slow motion, and the ruling on the field is.
His name is Dan Eiler.
And subsequently, he would like to inform you that we'll see you on the next one.